Hello and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat. Today we're here to talk about a bit of a sad situation really. Often we're talking about transfer news, we're quite jovial. Today it's a bit of a sad situation. Reading women having to drop out of the Women's Championship. They withdraw from the Women's Championship for next season and instead will play in Tier 5. For a lot of people this won't come as a huge shock because obviously this has been coming for a while now. But for anyone who isn't aware of the situation, what's happened, Harry?
Yeah, well, I mean, Reading owners have decided that the best way to solve their problems is to cut the women's side, and I mean that does mean that they're going to have to drop three tiers, which is quite frankly ridiculous. It's going to have a big effect, and obviously we'll explain that. But yeah, to be completely honest, I'm very surprised.
I'm not hugely surprised they've binned off because it's an operation at the end of the day, a football
Yeah.
club, and they have to prioritise the most profitable part of it. The men's side have already seen take a huge hit. They've dropped into League One for the first time in over 20 years. The women's side, who've been so strong in the women's game, Reading women, are now, I mean, last season they dropped out of the WSL. They're relegated, bottom of the league. They just don't have any money to compete in the WSL. They did okay in the Championship this season. They managed to stay up, but they aren't able to enter next season's edition of the Women's Championship. And it's a huge shame, of course, for Reading. They are a side who mean so much to a lot of people. There are a lot of players that we know and love came through the academy at Reading. You know, most notable example, probably Fran Kirby, Chelsea legend now, but she came through
Mary Earps.
the academy. Yeah, Mary Earps indeed as well. So it is a shame. Obviously, we know there was a bid at the 11th hour to try and buy out the women's section of the football club. Unfortunately, that fell through, which is a huge shame. It's been great to see that succeed and Reading women be able to survive. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen now. And well, it feels like a horrible situation. I don't really see where they go from here. They'll drop into Tier 5, where obviously a lot of their playing squad, I imagine, will leave now because I mean they didn't have much of a playing squad anyway. So they're going to have to get all of that together again for this division. You have a lot of girls in the academy now who were looking at playing in the Championship, WSL, really exciting prospects who now, well, either they've got to move away, which may involve moving out of Reading because, you know, and that can be very difficult if you've got to travel to go and play football. But yeah, I mean, it's just a huge issue across the board at Reading.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, you've left players without a club. You've left academy prospects. You know, because realistically, if you're in the academy at Reading, they've proven that you have a direct route to top tier women's football in England, and that route's just been cut off. You've left so many staff members as well with no job, and yeah, some of them will get snapped up, but for some of them, they'll be wondering, where do they go now? And I mean, they probably were planning for this to happen. That you probably saw this coming from a long way off, to be honest.
Yeah.
After everything that's happened over the last year, both on and off the pitch at Reading, but yeah, now it's a huge problem for everyone that is now without a club.
Yeah, indeed. And on the during this week, we've seen it feels like a real damning reflection on how the owners view their women's sides. We saw earlier this week Manchester United, and there was a huge piece on them on The Athletic and across various different news outlets about how the women's side have got their own separate training facility, but now they have to go and play in a portable one because the men's side are getting a renovation and they've been moved into the women's facilities. We've already seen that. We've already seen how Ratcliffe just apparently is not interested in investing in the women's team. And it feels like we're seeing again here that sort of neglect towards the women's game from a lot of football clubs. Now, I understand the Reading situation is very difficult, and I don't think anyone's to blame here. I don't think any fans, anyone at Reading, it all falls on Dayongi and the ownership for putting the club in a position like this. And I feel for every single fan, both of the men's and women's side, who have had to go through so much, and the players as well now at Reading, who've had to battle through so much, and now they're going to be playing 5th tier next season. It's horrible, and especially for fans, I feel for them massively because Reading were always a really competitive side, a really good team, and now they've dropped into the 5th tier, which is a huge drop, massive drop. And the Women's Championship, so they have come out and confirmed that next season will only be 11 teams. Now, I've seen a lot of people frustrated by this, but apparently it's too late now to try and get the licences through for next season, and all those processes, all those legal processes is the only reason, which is a shame because obviously for other teams in the Women's Championship, that's now only, 20 games a season rather than 22. Obviously, that's a loss of revenue in there. It won't be a major loss, but that is still a loss, and obviously the league is suddenly less competitive because the Women's Championship has 2 relegation spots, 2 promotion spots. Next season, I believe they will now only have 1 relegation spot and compete with 11 teams. So a little less jeopardy. But yeah, and it's a shame because I feel like this negative news around United, this negative news around Reading has detracted from what's been really positive news at London City Lionesses, with huge expansions coming in there, huge investment going in there, and a real project, a real plan to get into the top flight. So it is a shame, and it's a constant reminder that the finances aren't there yet in the women's game, and we need more investment. You know, you look at the fact that, you know, a lot of people have been saying, you know, we need to extend the WSL. We could go to 16 teams, maybe even 20 teams in the near future. But quite frankly, it's not sustainable just yet. We need more investment in the women's game. So we are still a long way off that. I'm hoping Newco, though, taking over the Championship and the WSL this season, that could be crucial. So, yeah, we'll be interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a massive problem. The problem is, at the moment, with the situation you have at football overall, is, you know, most owners are in it to make money, and the problem is they just think what's making the most money, and that is the men's game. They don't look at it from the point of view that they actually need to provide, provide a team in the women's game for footballers to come through there as well, because they don't care about that, because that's not going to make them the big bucks. So I think the problem is, I mean, there will be more investment, of course there will, but the problem is, at the moment, that more investment that you see at London City, that you see at other clubs, that more investment is also being cancelled out by the fact there are still owners and still football clubs who will just completely prioritise what's making the most money and kind of, you know, just throw the women's side or the women's part of the game to the curb.
We saw, was it Thornaby Town? I want to say they completely cut their operation on the women's side. Now, they've actually reversed that decision under a lot of pressure from players like Beth Mead. But that's so bizarre because they're a team in the 4th tier of the women's game and I want to say the 10th tier of the men's game, and yet they still prioritise the men's game. And that, for me, is shocking because the women's game is in such a good position now where I can only see it growing further and further over the next few years. Why not invest now? Yeah. Why not get ahead there and try and
and you look at the sides that have invested ahead, and you know, you look at, I think that's the frustrating thing about, you know, Reading is that, because you look in the WSL and a few of most of those sides are also at the top of the men's game, whereas Reading were that one side who the women's side was further up in the women's football ladder than their men's side is in the men's football ladder.
Bristol City as well, they've now been relegated.
Exactly, because there's not enough investment.
Another Premier League team.
It's so bizarre. You know, Reading could have, they'd invested. They could have.
They have no money to.
They didn't.
The thing is, the Reading situation is a bizarre one because it's exceptional because Reading's men's team have no money. There just is no money there.
Yeah,
they're in huge debts because of what De Jong has done there, and so there is an exceptional example. But I don't get why more Championship sides in the men's game that are just sat there don't invest more in the women's game. You look at Bristol City this season; they put no money into their women's team. The men's team have sat in 13th for the last 5 years, the last 10 years. They're not going anywhere at the minute, and the women's team had a real chance to stay in the WSL, and they didn't put any money in. They didn't really give it a good go, and that is a shame. And then, you know, they wonder why all the Premier League clubs are in the WSL. Well, it's because of that, because the women's sides just aren't investing. I mean, the Championship sides aren't investing in their women's game, and that is a huge shame. But yeah, I think there is. This proves again there's still a long way to go for the women's game to be in the same place, to have that financial stability and security. And it's a huge shame. And again, I feel massively for everyone affected by this situation. Everyone in the women's team, everyone in the academy at Reading, every fan, of course, of the women's side as well, the Reading women's team. I feel for all those people because that's who's affected here. That's who will go without their livelihood, go without their passion, go without their future potentially for a lot of the academy players. There's now a huge question mark over where they're going to go, what they're going to do in their career. So yeah, I feel for all those sorts of people, and it's a real shame that it's come to this. For Reading, I mean, I think they'll be back eventually. Obviously, I think more investment is going to come. They will get sold eventually. Unfortunately, it's not come before the deadline that the Women's Championship had to implement. They had to do that. If not, you know, they've got to cut it off at some point, and we're going into pre-season now. With that uncertainty, it couldn't happen. So they've had to withdraw, of course. But I think there will be investment. They will get sold eventually, and hopefully we can see them back in the top flight one day where they belong. But for now, they'll be back down in Tier 5, which is, it's going to be weird because they're going to feel like absolute giants in that league. They're going to go up against, I think it's Woolley, potentially in the same league, who are like a really small local side, but because of the situation, they're now going to play.
I mean, it's incredible, you know, and I mean, I think the biggest show of investment shows that they will be below #United, who are formed from social media.
And that's how you set up a sustainable football club compared to what Dai Yonggi did.
Just, Spencer Owen has invested more money into women's football than Dai Yonggi has. Or can, because he hasn't got any.
Exactly, because he spent it all.
Yeah. So I think this is all a knock-on effect from what he's done over the last few years. Just ran out of money.
And hopefully we can see more teams set up in the way that #United are and really take it on. And we look at London City Lionesses and what they're doing this season. That's really positive. You speak of hashtag there. I think Newcastle's investment's been really strong, and they will be pushing for the WSL. They're into the Championship now, aren't they?
Loads.
No, I know, of course, but it's good to see they are investing in the women's. They are
100%.
pushing to get to the WSL, and obviously they'll be in the Championship next season, right? Newcastle. So that'll be interesting. I think hashtag, as you say, will be well competitive in the National League, and we're hoping to get in the Championship. But yeah, I think we're in a real boom period now for the women's game, and hopefully we can start to see the investment come in, the finances come in. I think with Newco, this could be like when the Premier League split off from the FA. We could see a huge explosion there, because now it's in the hands of Newco and the clubs to try and get television rights and all that sort of stuff. It's not like the FA who are letting the BBC have it and not making the money. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do there. I'm excited for the future, really. But again, today's story, Reading withdrawing from the Women's Championship, a real damning reflection on where we are right now. And I guess sort of a bounce back to reality with where we are in the women's game. There is still so much work to do. So hopefully we can start to see that implemented over the next few years and see it become much more sustainable, the women's game. Because at the moment it is losing money, and we need to see it start to turn a profit in the future. But yeah, I'm excited for what it holds. Unfortunate, really, for Reading. Really sad news today that they have to withdraw from the Women's Championship. But they'll be back, and they are a really good team. But yeah, that is about everything from us today. Again, a bit of a different video. We will be doing another one on Wednesday where we're going to talk a little more lightheartedly about transfer rumours and stuff like that. But thought we'd have to talk about today's situation. It would be wrong if we didn't, really. But so make sure to check out that video on Wednesday. But that is everything from us today. I hope you have enjoyed. I'm sure you guys will have lots of opinions, so get them in the comments down below. But thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.